Have you noticed that climbing stairs has become harder? Maybe you're gripping the railing tighter than you used to, or perhaps you've felt that unsettling wobble when you stand up from your chair. That heaviness in your legs, that feeling like they're not quite obeying your commands anymore, it's terrifying, isn't it? Because deep down, you know what weak legs really mean. It means eventually needing help with things you've done independently your whole life. It means the possibility of falls, of hospital stays, of losing the freedom to move through your world on your own terms. But what if I told you that for many people over 50, this isn't inevitable aging at all? What if those weak legs, those nighttime cramps that jolt you awake, that exhaustion after a short walk, what if they're actually warning signs that your body is desperately crying out for 3 specific vitamins? I've talked to countless women and men who believed their leg weakness was just something they had to accept, who'd resigned themselves to a shrinking world, only to discover that addressing these vitamin deficiencies gave them back strength they thought was gone forever. Before we dive in, do me a favour, comment your age and location below. I want to build a community where we're supporting each other through this journey, and hitting that like button helps other people who are struggling with this exact same issue find this information. Because what I'm about to share isn't some complicated medical jargon or expensive solution. These are 3 vitamins backed by extensive research that have the power to transform your legs from weak and unreliable to strong and steady again. Coming in at number 3, and this might surprise you because it gets talked about for other things but rarely for leg strength specifically, is vitamin K2. Now, you've probably heard of vitamin K in relation to blood clotting, but K2, this is the form that does something absolutely extraordinary for your legs. Think of K2 as a traffic controller in your body. When you take calcium, which everyone over 50 knows is important, that calcium needs to go to the right place, your bones. But without enough K2, calcium can end up in your blood vessels instead, hardening your arteries while your bones stay weak. K2 directs that calcium exactly where it belongs. Here's what makes this fascinating for your leg strength specifically. A study published in Nutrients in 2021 found that older adults taking K2 supplementation saw 21% gains in their quadriceps strength. That's your thigh muscles, the ones you need every single time you stand up, climb stairs, or steady yourself. 21% stronger legs just from ensuring you have enough of this one vitamin. One woman shared with me how she'd been avoiding her garden because kneeling down and getting back up had become almost impossible. After 3 months of taking K2 along with her other supplements, she was back to tending her roses, and she told me with tears in her eyes that she felt like she'd gotten a piece of herself back. But K2 does something else that matters tremendously for people our age. As we get older, our bones naturally start losing density, and when your bones weaken, your muscles can't work properly. It's like trying to hammer a nail when the wall behind it is crumbling. Your muscles need strong bones as their foundation. K2 activates a protein called osteocalcin. What this really means is it's like turning on switches in your bones that allow them to absorb and use calcium effectively. In clinical trials, postmenopausal women taking K2 showed significant improvements in bone mineral density, which translated directly into better leg stability and reduced fracture risk. Now, you might be thinking, where do I get this K2? It's found in fermented foods like natto, which is a Japanese fermented soybean dish, and honestly, most American palates aren't prepared for that intense taste. You'll also find some in grass-fed dairy products, particularly certain cheeses, and in egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens. But here's the reality. Most people over 50 aren't getting nearly enough from diet alone. The typical recommendation is between 100 to 300 micrograms daily, and supplementation is often the most reliable way to reach that target. But here's what's critical, and stay with me because this connects to our number 1 vitamin in a way that magnifies everything. K2 works synergistically with another vitamin, meaning they make each other more effective. Taking K2 alone helps, but there's a combination that becomes truly powerful for your legs, and we'll get to that. Now we're at number 2, and this is where things get really interesting because this vitamin deficiency is often called the silent epidemic among older adults. I'm talking about vitamin B12. 8 out of 10 people over 60 have lower than optimal B12 levels, and many don't even know it until serious damage has already happened. Let me paint you a picture of what B12 deficiency looks like in your legs. It starts subtle, maybe a little tingling in your feet when you're trying to fall asleep. Then you notice your feet feel slightly numb, like you're wearing socks even when you're barefoot. Your legs start feeling heavier, weaker, and you're not sure why. You might stumble occasionally, losing your balance for no apparent reason. What's happening inside your body is that B12 deficiency is literally damaging the protective coating around your nerves. Think of it like the insulation around electrical wires starting to fray. When that insulation breaks down, the signals from your brain to your leg muscles get disrupted. Your brain is telling your legs to move, to balance, to respond, but those messages aren't getting through clearly. This condition is called peripheral neuropathy, and medical research has documented that B12 deficiency can cause not just that tingling and numbness, but actual weakness in your lower extremities, the medical term for your legs and feet. A comprehensive study published in BMC Neurology found that people with B12 deficiency experience significant loss of sensation in their peripheral nerves and measurable weakness in their legs. But here's what makes this both frightening and hopeful. If caught relatively early, this nerve damage can often be reversed. I've heard from people who describe 15 years of progressive leg weakness, difficulty walking, constant fear of falling, only to discover through blood work that their B12 levels were critically low. One man told me he'd bought a cane and was researching walkers, resigned to his declining mobility when his doctor finally tested his B12. Within weeks of starting high-dose B12 supplementation, that tingling started improving. Within 3 months, his leg strength had noticeably returned. He's back to walking his neighbourhood every morning, something he thought he'd lost forever. But why is B12 deficiency so common in older adults? It's not usually about diet, though vegetarians and vegans are at higher risk since B12 is primarily found in animal products like meat, fish, eggs and dairy. The real problem for most people over 50 is absorption. As you age, your stomach produces less of a substance called intrinsic factor. What this really means is your digestive system loses its ability to pull B12 out of the foods you eat. You could be eating steak every day and still be deficient because your body can't extract and use that B12 anymore. This is why many doctors recommend that people over 50 take B12 supplements, and often they recommend sublingual forms, the kind you dissolve under your tongue, or even B12 injections, because these bypass your digestive system entirely. The recommended daily intake is 2.4 micrograms, but many experts suggest much higher doses for older adults, especially those already showing deficiency symptoms. Some people take 500 to 1,000 micrograms daily when they're rebuilding their levels. Here's something most people don't realize. B12 deficiency doesn't just affect your legs. It impacts your energy levels dramatically. You might feel exhausted all the time. It can cause brain fog, memory problems, even mood changes and depression. So when you address this deficiency, people often tell me they don't just get their leg strength back, they feel mentally sharper, more energetic, more like themselves again. But we're not done yet, because number 2, as critical as it is, still isn't the foundation. There's one vitamin that, when deficient, makes everything else harder. One vitamin that affects not just your legs, but your entire muscular system, your bone health, your balance, your risk of falling. And this is it. This is the big one. Coming in at number 1, the absolute foundational vitamin for leg strength, especially in people over 50, is vitamin D. And I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. Studies suggest that up to 75% of American adults over 50 are deficient in vitamin D. 3 out of every 4 people. You could be one of them right now and not even know it. Here's why vitamin D is the foundation that everything else builds on. Vitamin D isn't actually a vitamin in the traditional sense. It functions more like a hormone in your body, affecting virtually every cell, including your muscle cells. When your vitamin D levels are too low, your muscles literally cannot function at full capacity. Research published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2024 investigated the impact of vitamin D supplementation on muscle strength in elderly adults, and the findings were remarkable. Vitamin D supplementation led to measurable improvements in muscle strength, particularly in the lower body, the legs. But let me make this real for you. When you're vitamin D deficient, your muscles feel weak and achy. You might notice that your legs tire quickly when you're walking. Stairs become daunting. Getting up from sitting feels like it requires so much more effort than it should. Your balance becomes shakier, which makes sense because balance requires not just strong muscles, but muscles that can respond quickly and precisely to keep you steady. Multiple studies have found that vitamin D deficiency significantly increases fall risk in older adults, and we all know what a fall can mean at our age. A broken hip, hospitalization, loss of independence, sometimes even a downward spiral that changes everything. One woman in her late 60s told me she'd become afraid to leave her house alone. She'd fallen twice in 6 months, thankfully without serious injury, but her confidence was shattered. Her legs just felt unreliable, weak, unable to catch her when she stumbled slightly. Her doctor tested her vitamin D levels and found them at just 18 nanograms per milliliter, when optimal levels are generally considered to be at least 30, and many experts recommend 40 to 60 for older adults. After bringing her levels up through supplementation over about 4 months, she described it as night and day. Her legs felt solid again. That constant muscle achiness disappeared. She's now walking 3 miles several times a week and told me she feels stronger than she has in years. But here's where this all connects, and this is crucial. Remember how I said vitamin K2 works synergistically with another vitamin? It's vitamin D. When you take vitamin D, it increases your body's calcium absorption, which is good. You need that calcium for strong bones. But if you don't have enough K2, that calcium might not end up where you want it. This is why many experts now recommend taking vitamin D and K2 together. They're a power couple for bone and muscle health. The vitamin D helps your muscles function and your body absorb calcium. The K2 makes sure that calcium goes into your bones and not your arteries. Together they create the foundation for strong legs. Now let's talk about how to get enough vitamin D, because this is where many people struggle. Your skin produces vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, but as you age, your skin becomes less efficient at this process. You'd need to spend significant time in direct sunlight without sunscreen, which dermatologists tell us not to do because of skin cancer risk. And if you live in northern climates, especially during winter months, you're simply not getting enough sun exposure regardless. Very few foods contain significant vitamin D. Some fatty fish like salmon and mackerel, egg yolks and fortified dairy products have some, but it's difficult to get enough through diet alone. This is why supplementation is often essential for people over 50. Many doctors recommend between 1,000 to 2,000 IU, that's international units, of vitamin D daily for older adults, though some people need more depending on their blood levels and individual factors. It's actually worth asking your doctor to test your vitamin D levels. It's a simple blood test called 25-hydroxyvitamin D, so you know exactly where you stand and can supplement accordingly. But here's something fascinating that recent research has revealed. A 2024 study showed that vitamin D doesn't just help your muscles contract and work properly, it actually influences how your body uses energy from food. When you have adequate vitamin D, your body is better at directing calories toward muscle maintenance and growth rather than fat storage. Think of it as optimizing your metabolism to support the strong functional muscles you need. Let me tie this all together because I want you to understand how these 3 vitamins work as a system for your legs. Vitamin D is your foundation. It makes your muscles capable of functioning properly, helps you absorb calcium, and reduces your fall risk. Vitamin K2 takes that calcium and directs it into your bones, making them dense and strong so your muscles have a solid framework to pull against, while also contributing directly to leg muscle strength based on emerging research. And vitamin B12 ensures the communication highways between your brain and your leg muscles are working perfectly. So when you need to move, to balance, to catch yourself, those signals get through loud and clear. People who address all three of these deficiencies often describe a transformation that goes beyond just their legs. They talk about feeling more energetic, more confident, more like themselves. Their world expands again because they're not afraid to walk around their neighborhood, to travel, to play with grandchildren, to maintain their independence. Now I know what you're thinking. How do I actually implement this? Here's the practical roadmap. First, if you're experiencing leg weakness, cramping, numbness, tingling, or balance problems, talk to your doctor about testing your vitamin D and B12 levels. Knowing your baseline helps you understand how much supplementation you might need. For vitamin K2, testing isn't as standard, but if you're not eating fermented foods or grass-fed dairy regularly, you're likely not getting enough. For supplementation, look for vitamin D3, which is the most effective form, often combined with K2. Take these with a meal that contains some fat because they're fat-soluble vitamins, meaning they're absorbed better with dietary fat. For B12, sublingual forms or methylcobalamin are generally well absorbed. Many people over 50 take a high-quality B-complex vitamin that includes all the B vitamins since they work together. Start with reasonable doses, typically 1,000 to 2,000 IU of vitamin D3, 100 to 200 micrograms of K2, and 500 to 1,000 micrograms of B12. But definitely discuss with your healthcare provider, especially if you're on blood thinners or have other medical conditions, because vitamin K can interact with those medications. Here's the timeline you should expect. This isn't an overnight miracle. Vitamins work by replenishing your body's stores and allowing it to function properly again, which takes time. Most people start noticing subtle improvements within 4 to 6 weeks. That tingling might decrease, muscles might ache less, energy improves slightly. By 3 months, the changes become more obvious: measurably stronger legs, better balance, more confidence in movement. By 6 months, many people tell me they feel like they've gotten years back. But don't just take these vitamins and remain sedentary. Your muscles need to be used to stay strong. Gentle resistance exercise, walking, even chair exercises can amplify the benefits you get from proper nutrition. Think of it like this. The vitamins give your body the raw materials it needs, but movement tells your body to use those materials to build and maintain strong legs. One more real-life example, because I think this illustrates the power of addressing these deficiencies. A 72-year-old man reached out to me after watching similar content. He'd been experiencing what he described as heavy legs for over 2 years. Walking from his car to his doctor's office, maybe 50 yards, left him exhausted and slightly unsteady. His doctor ran comprehensive blood work and found his vitamin D was at 16 nanograms per milliliter, critically low, and his B12 was at the low end of normal, which often still isn't optimal. They started aggressive supplementation, 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 with K2, 1,000 micrograms of B12 daily, and within 2 months he told me the heaviness was lifting. By 4 months he'd started a walking program. He's now 8 months later walking 2 miles 4 times a week, something he honestly believed he'd never do again. You deserve to feel strong and steady in your body. You deserve to move through your world without fear, without that constant worry about your legs giving out. Don't let anyone tell you that weakness and instability are just inevitable parts of aging. For so many people, these symptoms are actually fixable deficiencies, screaming for attention. So here's what I want you to do. First, comment your age below and let me know if you're experiencing any of these leg issues, weakness, cramps, numbness, balance problems. Second, hit that like button so this information can reach more people who desperately need it. Third, share this with anyone in your life over 50 who might be struggling with their legs, because this information could genuinely change someone's life. And subscribe to this channel, because I'm committed to bringing you health information that actually matters, that you can use, that's backed by real research but explained in a way that makes sense. Remember, vitamin D is your foundation for muscle function and calcium absorption. Vitamin K2 directs that calcium into your bones while boosting leg muscle strength. And vitamin B12 maintains the nerve pathways that allow your brain and muscles to communicate. Together, these 3 vitamins create the biological environment your legs need to be strong, stable and reliable again. Your best years don't have to be behind you. Strong legs equal independence, confidence and freedom. Start with these 3 vitamins. Give it the 3 to 6 months your body needs to rebuild and see what's possible. You might be amazed at what you get back.